Hello, everybody. Pastor Mike here from Project Re3 and Re3 Church. And obviously, if I'm speaking to you via social media, whether it be Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and you're watching me on video, that means that we're not in person. And we are not in person because we have had here in Kernersville what I think is the biggest snowstorm we've had in the entire time that I've been living here. Beth and I moved to Kernersville back in 2000, so we've been here over 25 years, and I've never seen it snow this much. And so there's a lot out there. Obviously, second week in a row, we haven't had in-person service. Last week, we had a lot of ice and things. This weekend, a lot of snow. So this kind of feels like 2020 again, where we're trying to figure out how do we stay connected? How do we speak to one another when we can't actually be in person? And so I just thought today I just put out a little message just to say hey and to check in with everyone and just to give you some thoughts of some things that's been going on in my head, mentally, emotionally, spiritually over the last few weeks and really over the last 31 days. Today is February 1st. We have just wrapped up the first month of the year. As always, it has flown by. And I think the older we get, the quicker time flies. And I can't believe the first month is already gone. But this first month has been really interesting for me as far as spiritually and biblically. I got to make a confession. I don't necessarily read the Bible. Now, that sounds pretty controversial, but I'm going to say it like this again. I don't necessarily read the Bible for fun or for personal growth. And I think after almost being in ministry for 30 years, I'm in the Bible all the time, but it always has to do with creating a sermon or a Bible study. And so I'm in it constantly. So just the idea of picking it up and just reading it for me to be completely transparent, is not something that I've done a lot lately. And I was trying to think of a way to analogize this. And I think it's like the school teacher, right? Whether you teach elementary school or middle school or high school or whatever, you're with students all week long. And then when you come to church on Sunday, for a lot of churches, they're like, well, he or she works with kids all the time. Let's get them into children's ministry. Let's let them teach kids church or be a children's ministry volunteer. And for a lot of teachers, they're like, I'd rather not. Like, give me something where I don't have to deal with anyone under the age of 18. And because they want that time off, they're with kids all during the week. So it's not that they don't love children, they don't love students. They're just with them all the time. And so working with kids just for fun in an unpaid environment is not something that they naturally want to spend their time doing. And I think that's what it is with not just me, let's be honest, with a lot of pastors. We are in the Word constantly, studying, researching, cultivating sermons and Bible studies. And so the idea of just sitting down and reading, it just doesn't, doesn't something that comes natural. And now it sounds terrible, and I'm kind of peeling back the curtain a little bit to a lot of pastors, but I do know it's not just me. A lot of my pastor buddies talk about this. So what I did was starting, I guess, in 2026, and I made this decision toward the end of 2025, is I wanted to do something I hadn't done in a really long time, and that is read the Bible cover to cover, from the beginning of Genesis all the way to the end of Revelation. Like, I want to read this thing and not just read it because I'm going to be creating sermons out of it or Bible studies, but I wanted to get back to reading it for me. And as it so happened, toward the end of 2025, I was listening to a podcast, and the podcast that I was listening to had a guest on there. And the woman's name was Tara Lee Cobble. And Tara Lee Cobble had helped put together and edit a book that she calls the Bible Recap. And as she was talking about this Bible Recap book that she had put together, the more she talked about it, it was like an epiphany for me. I'm like, this is what I need. What the Bible Recap does is it takes the entire Bible, Genesis to Revelation, and puts it together in chronological order. So it's based on time, not necessarily based on just following through the different books of the Bible as they've been put together, but trying to put them in, as historians believe, timeline-wise, it all fits together. And what she does in this Bible recap is you have your section. So day 1, you read Genesis 1 to 3. Day 2, you may read 4 to 6, whatever it may be. And at the end of each of those sections, she offers a couple of pages of just commentary. Like, this is what you just read. This helps kind of sum things up. And I think that's where a lot of people lose interest in the Bible. I think that for a lot of non-Christians, or for a lot of Christians that don't particularly read the Bible every day, and they start off January or some other time in the season, and they're just like, man, I just want to start reading the Bible, and it seems natural to read Genesis 1:1 and just read all the way through it. You get about halfway through Genesis, and you're like, what am I even reading here? Like, there's some crazy stuff that is happening. There's a whole chain of so-and-so's son is so-and-so, and this, they had this land, and they had this, and it can be very confusing. And so what I love about this Bible recap book is it takes it, I'll always like say, it's like that old phrase, how do you eat an elephant? Bite by bite. So it takes the elephant of the Bible, and it allows you to eat it bite by bite. And in one little section, just a couple of chapters, you read it, and then there's about 2 pages of commentary that just let you know kind of, hey, this is what you just read. This is what it means in a historical context. This is some theologians, this is what their thoughts are. And it's written in just such a beautiful, just modern day common language, these commentaries, that it makes perfect sense. So I'm going to show it to you. This is what it looks like. The Bible recap is written by, right here, Tara Lee Cobble, a 1-year guide to the Bible. So you can get this in a couple different forms. You can get this, obviously, in paperback, as I have right now. You can get this in Kindle version if you want a digital copy. You can get this to where it's the actual Bible, and so it's all in one. So you have the scriptures right there when you read your daily assignment. Then at the end it has the commentaries, or you can have what I have. This right here is just the commentaries. So for example, we're just going to flip to today. Let's see, I was yesterday's day. As you can see, 32. It's not done in January 1st, January 2nd. So you can pick this up at any time throughout the year and not feel like you're locked into some type of calendar. You just pick it up. Heck, you could pick it up March 17th if you wanted to, and that could be your day 1. But it has it through here. So day 32 would be February 1st because I started January 1st, but that's okay. But so today's reading is going to be Exodus 7 through 9. So I'm going to read Exodus 7 through 9. And then as you can see, that's all the commentary right there. That's it. So about a page and a half, almost 2 pages of commentary written by Tara and her team. And it's fantastic. And so I say that not because I'm getting paid to endorse this or I've had anything to do with this book, but it has been fabulous. It has been, man, I don't know. It has been great for me and my soul, and reigniting that passion to want to read the Bible for me. So what are my thoughts so far in the book of Genesis? This is what I see, because like I said, Genesis can get kind of bogged down. There's a lot in Genesis. You obviously have creation. You have the fall, with Adam and Eve. You have Noah and the ark in there. You have Abram becoming Abraham, going and settling in this new land. You have his sons, Jacob and Esau. You have the betrayal there. You have Jacob's son Joshua, who was sold into slavery by his brothers. And then you have all of this. Oh, there's just a lot happening in Genesis. There's 40 chapters, and there's a lot there. Yeah, 40, I guess there is. And there's a lot there. And how do you make sense of it all? And if you're reading all of that, what do you think about God as you're reading it? And this is what I think. It's easy to look at the New Testament and just see Jesus all throughout the New Testament. I mean, that's it. I mean, Jesus is there in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We have the Gospels. We have the Gospel accounts of Jesus. And then you've got the different writers. You've got Paul, who wrote a lot of the New Testament, and John, or whoever it may be. And this overwhelming sense of the New Testament is God's grace. God's grace through Jesus. And what is grace? Grace is getting something we don't deserve. We don't deserve salvation. We don't deserve forgiveness. But through Jesus' birth, his life, his death, and his resurrection, God is offering us grace. That perfect sacrifice was made for us. So we hear a lot about grace in the church, and God's grace is overwhelming. The New Testament, I mean, it's what is preached on more than maybe any other subject is God's grace. And so I think because of that, the Old Testament can get kind of a bad rap because we see a God and unfairly, we label God as just like angry God or this vengeful God. And here's a God that got so frustrated early on, even in Genesis, that he destroyed the world with a flood. It only saved a few people. And, you know, throughout the Old Testament, you see God doing certain things to certain groups and elevating certain groups and de-elevating other groups, and God's punishment and his judgment. And so it almost comes across, if you read the Bible with I'm going to say a closed mind. If you go in kind of with some preconceived notions, it's easy to look at the scriptures and say, all right, God was this kind of angry, vengeful God in the Old Testament. Jesus came in and said, let me handle this. And Jesus was like good cop, bad cop. He was the good cop. He came in and loved everybody and showed everyone grace and forgiveness and patience. And then he died and rose again, and everybody has a chance of eternal life. So it's easy to look at the scriptures and see a good cop in Jesus and a bad cop in God. And that's not it at all. That's not even close to what the Bible tells us. And I think that's been one of the great reminders for me as I've been reading Genesis. And in the first 31 days, because it's written chronologically, you start off and you read Genesis, I don't know, let's say it's like 1 through 10 or 1 through 12, and then they shift gears and you read all of Job, and you finish Job, and then you come back to Genesis again, because again, it's chronological. It's what they believe timeline-wise fits, and they believe that the book of Job was actually, if you look at a timeline, took place within Genesis, and right in the middle of it almost. And so you read in the first 31 days, you're going to read all of Genesis and Job because they're all kind of fit together timeline-wise. But whether you're reading Genesis or whether you're reading Job, the one thing that kept coming to my mind over and over and over again was the word mercy. God's mercy from the beginning. Now, if grace is getting something we don't deserve, mercy is not getting what we do deserve. And that's the entire first book of the Bible. I mean, that's it. That's all of Genesis. And you can even throw Job in there. And I'm sure this is going to be a pattern as we continue to read throughout the rest of the Old Testament. Over and over and over, we're going to see a pattern of God's mercy. Again, mercy, not getting what we deserve. You can't read Genesis and not see a bunch of knuckleheads in there. You can't read Genesis and not see yourself in there. Some of the decisions that are made by, whether it be Abraham or Jacob or whoever, we make those same decisions today. And we like to say, well, it's God's grace that keeps me from spiraling out of control or actually having forgiveness. And it is. But it's also God's mercy. God's mercy for not giving us what we deserve. And so as I was jotting down some things and reading through this, three things really quick that jumped out at me about God's mercy. First of all, there was mercy after the fall. You see this in Genesis chapter 3. This is God's created everything. He's created the heavens and the earths and all that we have here and the oceans and the plants and the animals. And he creates Adam and he creates Eve. And then there's the fall. And I was thinking about it kind of like an illustration like this. As a parent, there's been a time when your kids have been horsing around when they were young and they break something. And let's say they broke your favorite vase or your favorite lamp. Now, that kid probably isn't going to go running to mom and dad and say, hey, look, I know you told us not to throw ball in the house, but we were throwing ball and we accidentally broke, grandma's so-and-so lamp that she gave you, and I'm so sorry. Here's the pieces. Kids don't do that. What do? They do the same thing we do as adults. They try to cover it up. And so as a kid, you're going to take that vase or that lamp and you're going to try to hide the pieces. You're going to try to clean everything up. And if the parent says, where was this vase that was sitting here? You're going to be like, what vase? I've never seen a vase there. You're losing it, Mom. Or they're going to try to put it back together and tape it back together or glue it and try to make it look like it used to look. That is Adam and Eve. They broke the lamp of God when they went to the garden and ate of the tree that God said don't eat from. That was them, the equivalent of them breaking that lamp. And then what they try to do, they try to piece things back together. God shows up. And the great thing about God in this, you see his mercy from the very beginning. He doesn't come in and yelling and screaming. He doesn't say, hey, there's a apple missing from that tree. Who ate this apple? No, God comes in and he just simply says, Adam, Eve, where are you? Where are you at? Not because he doesn't know, but because mercy always starts with pursuit. Always. So he was just pursuing Adam and Eve. And then when God finds them, he does something pretty extraordinary. He doesn't zap them with a lightning bolt. What does he do? He covers them. They get fig leaves. They sew them together. They cover themselves up. He takes animal skins, helps give them clothing. You see, humanity's first response when we do something, when we sin, we do something against God, our first response is always hiding and shame. And God's first response is always pursuit and provision. He comes in and says, where are you? That's the pursuit. They came in with fig leaves and he said, let me just give you some skins from animals. Let me clothe you up. You're not how I wanted you, but I'm going to show you mercy. Yes, there are consequences to our sin. I tell people that all the time. You can control the sin, but you can't control the consequence of sin. There was consequences to Adam and Eve's sin, but there was also compassion. God showed them that compassion through his pursuit and through his provision, so that even in judgment, mercy showed up. So here's the thing. What's the point of that? The point of that little part is this. Sin exposes us, but mercy covers us. That's the first thing I thought of when I got to that major story. That's the first sign of mercy that we see. Mercy after the fall. God covers what sin exposes. The second story I want to bring out in Genesis there that, again, screamed mercy to me is, like I said earlier, Noah and the ark. Like, we all know this story, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, whether you're a believer or not a believer. This is something that we know the story of. There's been movies made about it. It just, even if it hasn't been exactly like the Bible, there's been countless books and movies and things that have been built around this idea. So we all know this idea of Noah and the ark. And I like to think of the ark like this. For those of you who have ever flown on a plane, and probably most of you have flown on a plane, you know that there is an emergency exit. And you hope you never have to use that emergency exit. But here's the thing, that emergency exit is not signs of fear. It's not that emergency exit is, we are going to go down. And when we go down, this is how we're going to do it. It's if we go down. If the plane starts to have problems, then we have this emergency exit. To me, the emergency exit is a sign of foresight. We're not going to be trapped on this plane. If something happens and we need to get out, we're going to get out these emergency exits. That's foresight. The ark, to me, is that emergency exit. That ark, to me, is God's emergency exit for a broken world. Yeah, the world was broken. And God decided to show his judgment through a flood. But the ark is mercy. God just doesn't cause destruction. He just doesn't destroy the entire earth. He makes a way through it. You see, this flood and this ark is not a threat. It's a promise. And what this ark is, this ark of mercy, it's not a restart. It's more of a reset. He allowed Noah and Noah's family and whoever else, there was others. It wasn't like it was just Noah's. Whoever wanted to get on could have got on, but they didn't. God said, we're not going to restart this thing. If he wanted to do that, he could have just destroyed everything and started all over with a new Adam and a new Eve. But for God, it was a reset. It was a reset built in mercy. God preserves us despite our rebellion. So at the fall, we see mercy after the fall. We see that God covers what sin exposes. Through the story of Noah, we see mercy in human brokenness, that God preserves regardless of our rebellion. God takes sin very seriously, but the ark shows that God is committed to saving. A couple more notes. Let me grab my notepad here and see what else I said. So number 3, as you continue reading and you get up to say Genesis chapters 12, 15, this is what's beautiful about this, is that as he showed us mercy after the fall, and after he showed us mercy through our human brokenness, God shows mercy through his covenant. The fact that God chooses imperfect people for his perfect plan. Now we have digital pictures now, right? And so it's easy to snap a million pictures and then to scroll through and pick your favorite. But what do we choose our favorite based on? We choose our favorite, especially if it's a group picture. How is everyone looking? Is everyone's eyes open? Is everyone looking happy? Is everyone smiling? Like those are the things that make a great picture. But back in the day, you didn't have that opportunity to look through a million pictures. You would go to JCPenney's or Olin Mills, or maybe you just had your own little disposable camera and you would take some shots and you'd send it away and they'd get developed and you come back and you'd have to go through them hoping that out of the 20 or 30 pictures, there might be one that's worth framing. And then you take that one picture and you frame it. And what do you do with all the other pictures? You put them in a box and you probably just tuck them away in your closet or your basement or your attic. And that's where they sit to this day. The pictures that weren't worth showing. Because what did we do back then? We framed the best family pictures. What do we do now? We frame the best pictures through social media, through Facebook, through Instagram, through whatever else. We put our best out there. Nobody puts their worst. But to me, reading Genesis, I would not call that our best. If I was God and I was putting together a family photo album, I wouldn't include 90% of what we read about in Genesis. Because that is the negative. That is the bad portraits of people. But God doesn't hide that. What he's showing us instead is, look at how imperfect these people are. Since the beginning of time, since Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, all the way through today, February 1st, 2026, you look at all of those people, they've all been imperfect. But God continues to use imperfect people for his perfect plan. Reading through Genesis, you see Abraham lies, Jacob deceived, Joseph's brothers betrayed. And yet God doesn't rip up those pictures and he frames them instead. He lets them say, look, this is, Joseph even says it. He says, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. You see, that's mercy. Mercy is not erasing the past. Mercy is about redeeming the past. God's mercy does not depend on perfect people. God's mercy just depends on a perfect and faithful God. The patriarchs that we read about in Genesis, right here, over and over and over, those patriarchs repeatedly failed. They lied. They manipulated. They showed favoritism. But God kept using them for good. Mercy in Genesis is just not about forgiveness. It's God working through broken people to bless our world. Not just thousands of years ago, but even today. Yes, judgment may still be necessary, but mercy from God is very, very intentional. When you read the book of Genesis, you cannot walk away and not see that God's mercy is steadfast, that God's mercy is patient, and that God's mercy is unstoppable. From Eden to Egypt, Genesis tells one consistent story: that God is merciful, that humanity is messy, but God refuses to give up on us. And that was just a great reminder for me over these last 31 days is God's mercy is beautiful. God's mercy is something that I have and I need, but not necessarily anything I ever seek. I seek a lot of grace. I seek a lot of forgiveness. But man, I kept reading Genesis and I kept seeing myself as Adam, as Abraham, as Isaac, as Esau, as Joseph's brothers, as Pharaoh. I kept seeing myself in these stories. This is me today. And I just kept overwhelmingly thanking God for his mercy on my life over the last 51 years. Man, God's mercy is beautiful. And so I encourage you, if you have not read the Bible in a long time, obviously I endorse the Bible recap. I am loving it. You may have something else that you read that's just as good. You may have a commentary that's just as good. But please, if you're going to read the Bible, piggyback that with some type of commentary just to help unpack a little bit of this. And I think if you read it and read it with a fresh eyes and a fresh mind, you're going to see themes throughout the scriptures of things that maybe you never knew, or maybe parts of God's character that you completely forgot about. But for me, Genesis is about mercy over and over and over. So that's my little spiel for this morning. Don't go away. I have a couple of announcements. But yeah, that's my spiel, and that's my endorsement is start reading Genesis. I love the chronological. It's the first time I've tried to do this is to read chronologically. And again, the Bible recap, it can be bought on Amazon or wherever books are sold, I'm sure. I've even seen it in Target. So anyway, I highly endorse this. She also has a podcast if you want to listen to a little bit of that. But very, very good stuff. Speaking of books, I know that we have not been together in a couple of weeks, so you have not got to see this in person. But ta-da! My brand new book, Available, is now available. This came out a couple of weeks ago. Actually, January 21st is when it came out. You can order it online. You can get it in Kindle version, paperback, but I also have it in hand. We will have these at church there in the lobby if you want to buy any of these. This is my second of a 3-book trilogy that I'm doing, and I've already started working on book number 3, but this one has been endorsed by my wife, and she's pretty smart. So she loved that book. So we have that going on. What else is going on as far as announcements at Re3 Church? We have a couple of things coming up. We have our annual Chili Bowl, and this happens every Super Bowl Sunday. This is a chili cook-off at Re3 Church. It's a fundraiser for our youth for their upcoming mission trip this summer. Everyone just encouraged to bring your best, or heck, I don't care, your worst, whatever it may be, your favorite pot of chili, and bring that day in your crock pot. We're going to plug those in the morning, keep them nice and warm. We'll have worship as normal next Sunday, and then after the service, we'll all head down to the fellowship hall, and everybody will get to try all the chili you want. And so this is just a strictly donation-based event. So you come in, and if you don't have anything, that's fine. come eat anyway. If you want to give $1, give $1. If you want to give 100, give 100. Whatever you may be, whatever you have, whatever it may be, just go ahead and it's going to be a donation to the youth group. 100% of it will go to our youth mission trip. We usually have anywhere from 15 to 20 different chilies. We give out awards for first, second, and third place. We have secret judges that go around and taste all the chilies and kind of get together and grade them and give out prizes. And it's always a lot of fun. It's a big event. So that's coming up next Sunday, February the 8th. Super Bowl Sunday is our annual Chili Bowl. We'll go a week later now. On Valentine's, February 14th, that Saturday, we are bringing back an old favorite at Re3 Church. We're bringing back our Valentine banquet, or if you're not into holidays, just call it a couples banquet. This is going to be a catered meal at the church that night. So, hey, if you and your date don't know what to do on Saturday night for Valentine's, if reservations have been made everywhere and you can't get out and you can't get in anywhere but Waffle House, Re3 Church will be open and we're going to be having a catered meal. You can find all about that on the church newsletter, and we'll be posting it on our website, and we're going to provide a meal, and we're going to have trivia and as kind of entertainment afterwards. And so it'll be a fun time. We'll be giving out prizes, and our trivia nights at Re3 Church are always a blast. And so we're going to combine the trivia night with our Valentine's banquet this year. And so would love to have you be a part of that. So again, that's going to be in the newsletter. We're also going to be posting that on social media. So make sure that you take a look at that. And then last but not least, the other big event that we have this month, Ash Wednesday. I believe that's my dates. I should have them in front of me. February 17th, possibly, whatever that Wednesday night is. It's the Wednesday after Valentine's Day is Ash Wednesday. We're going to be having a special Ash Wednesday service that evening, and we would love for everyone to be there for that. It's the kickoff of our season of Lent. We love celebrating Lent at Project Re3. We have an incredible Lent service and series that we're going to be going through as we lead up to Easter. So we'd love to have you be there on Ash Wednesday for our big kickoff for the Lent season as we start to prepare our hearts for Resurrection Sunday and the reason that we get to experience mercy and grace through the cross. And so we'd love to have you be a part of that. But that's the three big events for February: Chili Bowl, the couples banquet, and then Ash Wednesday service. Those are the big three. As far as prayer requests go, number one, just pray for safety. There's a lot of people that have to go into work that are out traveling. We just want to pray. The roads are still pretty rough. I mean, we got about a foot of snow sitting now on top of a couple of inches of ice. So it might be a while before some people dig out and get to where they need to get to. But we want to pray for our folks that have to travel. We want to pray for the first responders that we have, not just at Re3, but all around that are going to be going out and having to help some folks. And so, and not just our first responders, for the people that are out scraping the roads and fixing power and all those types of things. We want to pray for those folks and make sure we keep them first and foremost in our thoughts and prayers. Also want to add, we want to keep praying for Tommy Mape. Tom, tomorrow, February 2nd, we'll be going into the hospital for an ablation on his heart. So we know that Tom's been dealing with some heart issues now for a while. He's finally been able to get in and get his heart ablation tomorrow. So we're going to be praying for him that procedure begins to clear up some of the things that he's had going on with his AFib and things. So be praying for Tom and Shirley Mabe and all that they have going on. I think they're going to be heading down this evening to go ahead and try to get a room near the hospital so they don't have to worry about those treacherous roads tomorrow morning as they drive in. So pray for that. Again, if you have prayer requests, we have a prayer, a Re3 prayer group. You can Google it or look it up on the Facebook. It's a closed group, but everybody gets accepted. We just kind of keep it closed just to kind of keep private prayers and things like that. But it's a great group. We post a lot of prayer concerns there. You're able to go in and post your own prayer concerns. We see that a lot. And so I encourage you, if you're not part of our Re3 prayer group on Facebook, please go ahead and join that group. We would love to have you be a part of it. The more people we have praying, the absolute better. So with all that being said, that's it for today. If you go out today and go sledding, man, you just go for it. Have a lot of fun, be safe. As for me, I don't see myself going sledding, but There may be some snow disc golf in my future. So I was talking about going and dropping Beth and the kids off over at Tim and Wendy's house and letting them go sled over there in their neighborhood. And I'm going to go meet Ross up at the disc golf course. So if anybody wants to play some disc golf today in a foot of snow and get that experience, just hit me up and we'll be glad to kind of share that with you and what time and what we're going to meet over at the church, maybe sometime this afternoon for that. But we're going to enjoy what God has given us, a chance to slow down and just have some time to breathe and rest and just enjoy this rare occurrence here in Kernersville, North Carolina of about a foot of snow. So to everyone else, have an incredibly blessed Sunday. If you've stuck around for the last 35 minutes, thank you. I look forward to seeing all you hopefully back in person very soon. From my family to yours, thank you for being part of our Re3 family.